All right, we are live.
Welcome to Blockchain Boulevard. I'm cuddling with my little dog Marcy. She had a traumatic experience on her walk today when a tiny little leaf got stuck in her paw in between her little digits, and she didn't know what to do about it. So she had to stop in her tracks and wait for somebody to pick it out of her feet. Now she's fine.
Poor little Mercy.
It was traumatic though.
Say a leaf?
Yeah, just a little leaf.
How's a leaf even stuck in her foot? Wouldn't it like crumble?
It was like a crumb of a leaf. It wasn't like a full leaf. But it was also like non-real trauma. She's just she trumps it up a little bit. And she's like, "Oh, okay, now take me home. I don't want to walk anymore. Now that I had to endure this terrible outdoorsiness." If Marcy was a like person, she would be like a glamper, not a camper. She doesn't do nature. Marcy,
Let's just stop raining a little bit.
Yeah, just enough for her to be traumatized by a little fraction of a leaf. She did poop finally last night at like the 2 a.m. like when we go out for the last pee of the night, which is almost always a pee. She was just like, "I can't hold it. I gotta go poop." Tried to hold it all day just because it was raining. The other day when it rained all day, she just held it all day, and the next day she took a bigger poop.
I was looking up last night. It's like, is California still in a drought? And like, apparently we're still in a severe drought. And I was like, how the fuck, like, how is it raining this much and we're not able to like use some of that rainwater to not be in a drought? I guess it's just like it rains so infrequently in California. We're not, like, our water reservoirs are not set up to catch rain. They're set up to catch snow melting into like water. It's like a lot of our fresh water comes from snow glaciers melting. So like, unless it's snowing in the mountains, that doesn't really help us long term for the drought.
Yeah. And also when it hasn't rained for so long and then it rains a whole bunch, it's not like the ground isn't able to absorb the water very well. So it just kind of like flows into the river and then into the ocean.
Yeah, that's what they said. Like most of our water that's happening, the rain, is just going from the LA River right into the ocean. Like,
yeah,
putting that water right back into more water.
We saw that giant fucking flow in the LA River. That's nuts. What up, Eric? Oh, hold on, man. Move this a little closer.
It is interesting though. You'd think like with this much rainwater, we'd collect more of it. I guess there are some people in LA that collect it, like in LA County, but not so much in like the more rural areas. But you think it'd be the opposite. Like the rural areas would have more space to store the water. That's what I was reading. Like the reason we don't catch water in LA is because real estate's too expensive. So like the storage, the infrastructure in LA County would just be expensive as shit.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think a lot of the water in LA is pumped in from like the north.
It is for sure,
especially in the Marcy. Come on. In drought times, which has been what, like I think 7 years now of drought in LA.
I think this is the rainiest it's been since we've lived in Los Angeles. So it's been raining for like 2 weeks now, which is like unheard of here.
No, that's true. It's
kind of rainy over like Christmas because there were news articles going out about. When I was looking this up last night, it was like over Christmas, like the last week of December. There's a shit ton of rain, so people were talking about like the drought and stuff. It hasn't stopped since then.
I think as of like last week, I've been in LA for 10 years. This is the longest I've lived anywhere my whole life.
That's pretty much where I am. I think I passed Bellingham probably at this point.
Yeah.
I also moved a lot growing up. Like,
what up, Poppin' Stock?
I don't know if that's the average experience because
yeah. Before this 10-year stint, the 8 years was the longest I ever lived anywhere.
It's about me too, and I think that was Bellevue.
Oh yeah, I lived 8 years in Issaquah, Bellevue, I guess, that like right on the border there in Lakemont.
I lived in Ohio for a minute, and I lived in Tacoma. I lived in Federal Way. Then I lived in Bellevue, and then I lived Bellevue, Issaquah, and then I lived in Bellingham. And then I lived in Los Angeles.
I lived 8 years in Farmington, which is like a neighborhood in Detroit. Like metropolitan Detroit, not like downtown Detroit. think our cross street was 9 Mile Road and Haggerty, and I think a lot of people know 8 Mile Road from the whole, the Eminem movie.
Is
8
the
Mile.
road actually 9 miles long? Is that why it's called?
No, it's like they're spaced out from the city center, so it's like they go perpendicular to the city, and it's like 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile, 5 mile. They're not even a mile apart. It's just instead of calling it First Street, it's 1 mile.
That's
Instead
weird.
of 8th Street, it's 8 Mile basically. Yeah, but
There's no battle rap. I'm not in. They better be
Yeah.
battle rapping on the street all the time.
exactly. Nah, that wasn't really happening on 9 Mile. That was an 8 Mile thing. But then you also would have had to go further towards the city than, for 8 Mile from versus where we were. We were like in the suburbs. Still nice. I could walk to a 7-Eleven and get myself a Slurpee. That was great. I had one of those big gulp refillable things, and I drank way too much Slurpee as a kid. It's a good thing. Not trying to complain. Oh, Marcy,
I feel like you
let us
get
know.
Slurpee pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. But being walking distance from a 7-Eleven, that's a rare treat for a kid who doesn't have a car and isn't going to have their parents drive them to get a fucking Slurpee. Or, will ask, but they'll say no.
True, I'm not sure where the closest Slurpee to Lakemont was. I think there might have been, that gas station might have had some. I don't remember.
I guess that's true. They'll have like
That's
the
pretty deep
ices
from
and
where I
stuff.
live, though.
That's still pretty far, yeah, I was gonna say. Also, that gas station was just like insanely overpriced. Just because it was
Yeah,
like
it
the
was.
only game in like the rich suburb there. Like when gas was
Lakemont-
like $4, it was like $5.50 there. Yeah.
We
Crazy.
didn't have that much cool shit. Matthews was also kind of expensive.
Yeah, Matthews.
I guess there was
sounds
like Blockbuster, but other than that, there wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah, there was a Blockbuster, a Starbucks, I think. I'm trying to remember
Blockbuster's
what else.
probably like the place that I frequented the most besides Matthews.
Yeah, that did seem like a good location for Blockbusters. And I guess in its defense, that Blockbuster was still there for a long time during like the bankruptcy, proceedings or whatever you will. Like that Blockbuster stayed open for.
I think my parents used Blockbuster till that shit shut down because
Yeah.
for a while, like they were doing Netflix, where Netflix would send you 3 DVDs
Yeah, in the mail. Yeah, my parents did that. In the
a
mail
month.
stuff.
That's how we got into Netflix back in the day when they were doing physical media and we're not a streaming website.
Yeah.
But at some point, Blockbuster did the same thing to compete with
And
Netflix.
And you could just
But
return
you
them to
could
the
turn the
store.
movies in
Yeah.
person. So like we could just go like watch the movie and then just go walk and deliver to Blockbuster and then mail us a new one the next day. So like we started doing that just because it was faster than Netflix, because Netflix had a couple days turnaround time for the shipping.
Could you not just return it to the store and then leave the store with a new one, or that wasn't how it worked?
I
You
don't
had
think the
to
store
get a
has
new one.
everything that's.
Oh, okay. But
or
if they
maybe-
had what
I
you
don't-
wanted,
I don't
you could do
remember.
that.
I wasn't involved in the technical side of that.
That definitely seemed like, I don't know, the way to do that business model at the time. Whereas like you could have stomped Netflix out if you had just shifted to a subscription based model earlier. And just been like, oh yeah,
they
just
did it
come
really
to
late.
Blockbuster
I
store.
remember. It was
Yeah,
kind of
they
like
did it
too little, too
really
late
late.
by the time they're trying to do it.
Yeah, at that point, like everyone's already using Netflix. It's like, dude, how are you that slow on your shit? Blockbuster deserved to go out of business for just not keeping up with a changing market. Oh yeah, Draconianbergs.
Yeah, we dropped her Neonbergs last night. If you have the Burn Street set bonus.
Yeah, the head also has the beard, the growing beard in the suspect location.
I can just show it off. I had 2 in my wallet. I thought I fucked up the airdrop. I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh yeah, we have multiple set bonuses.
I only
for
got
this
one of the lits, but then I got 2 of the glows because I had 2 glow sets. Yeah, this one, I like this one a lot. It's pretty great. I do eventually want like a naked fucking version of some of the Cronion artwork because I really like the nakeds and the Cronions look awesome.
And there it is.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, it's got
The open closed legs.
I don't know how you even describe this for people who are listening only.
It's like a mash. It's a Cronenberg monster mashup of all of the artwork that was released on the Burn Street.
You got a leg, you got a tentacle with a butt, you got a man's beard that's like pubic hair growing. You got a fist shaking some cash, a leg spreading, some skeleton ribs in a face.
Yeah, the raven's also chilling on the top tentacle there.
You got a Edgar Allan Poe with a pepper. What would you call that? Stem on his head.
Yeah, the pepper stem, definitely.
Fire coming out of it.
And the whole thing has the color scheme from the heating up pepper of neon spice.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this.
Yeah, all our Cronenbergs have that kind of like mashup, and everything's kind of like, it takes, I don't know, I'll keep looking at them like over the years, and it's fun to like catch all the different like things over and over again, or eventually like see things I didn't before. Although I feel like I've seen most of it now. It's not that intricate, but it is. These are definitely my favorites. I'm a big fan of those. Plus, yeah, the whole set, I think there's like 40 of them or something total, including all rarities. This is definitely a very rare set bonus. So, kudos for anyone who fucking collected any one of those sets. I think even the lit set, there's only 26. Yeah, it's one more than neon. So if you actually collected a full lit set, well done.
26 plus 13, that's 39. So there's 41, right? Yeah, so there's 2 of the neon.
The neons are also fucking dope. I'm really bummed I like slacked on filling my set. I do intend to fill the set anyway, but man, I missed that neon now, and I doubt I'm gonna be able to get that from. Let's see. I feel like it's KY and Silent who have it.
I think it's Twalter.
Oh, it's Twalter. Yeah.
So if you're the one of 2 people who got this, if you're Twalter or KY, looks like Twalter got mint 1 and KY got mint 2. But still, there'll only ever be 2 people that.
There's only I mean, we haven't closed the contract yet, just to make sure no one is like chiming in upset that they missed the drop in case something happened during the airdrop snapshot kind of phase. But
also,
the contracts will be closed. This is
like,
the end.
Unless you already have the set in like different wallets, I don't know how you would complete it. This is not going to be an easy set for anyone to complete, just because you can't even buy the packs that the neons come out of anymore.
Yeah, so we are going to where it says max mint ? It's going to be capped within a week or so, I'd say. Like, we're closing those. We just didn't close them right away, just to be sure everybody who deserved to get one got one. So if you're out there and you feel like you should have gotten a set bonus and didn't get one, like, let us know what happened. Like, if your stuff was maybe split between multiple wallets or something, we can definitely verify on the blockchain that you did have it during the snapshot, and we can help you out. But until then, it's going to stay open. So if you're wondering why it says max mint ? That's why. That's usually how we do our set bonuses too, by the way. We like keep them all open until it's, time to close everything, and everyone knows like it's irreversible at that point.
Here's Twalter. Says I need to trade KY. He should have mint 1. I only completed because he traded with me. I'm sure he'd appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. KY is definitely.
Shout out to you as well for completing the set. That's not an easy set to complete.
Yeah, you're the only other person who did it. I could have, but that was like getting ready for my travel, like, and then ended up just like slacking on offering trades and stuff. I was missing like 4 neons, but I had dupes, and I knew people would have been able to trade, and I just slept on it like a fucking knob. But yeah, that's what you get, Max. There's a deadline on that. Can't extend it just because I'm fucking lazing.
I guess there's some new candidates for Waxo IG, which is kind of cool.
Oh yeah, anyone you're familiar
Mike
with?
D from Waxdow.
Oh, hello. I appreciate him like getting very
Mike
involved
D,
in the
Nick
wax.
Custers, and Sasha. Those are all 3 people that I like on
Real.
Wax. Like,
Yeah. Nick
yeah,
Custer's
there's
behind NFT Hive, right? Or what do I know him?
who?
The Nick Custer? Is he not?
Nick Custers he builds like
Oh,
blockchain
that's what it is for
tools that read stuff. He did like
Alien
the
World
Our
stuff, right?
Planet Whale tool where you could see how much money you're making an hour with Aether, and then he also has made like Alien Worlds tools.
Like to distribute stuff for like people on lands, right? That's what I remember. That's what I think I know him from.
No, that's not him.
That's not him. Okay, then I'm
That's
thinking of someone else.
US USA that does that.
Oh, okay. Are they
US
already part
USA
of that?
does the Alien Worlds like butler services or whatever they call them, where they distribute stuff for people through Alien Worlds. Nick Custers builds like smart contracts, and he sort of like Van, his website, where he builds like tools that read data off the blockchain more so than like smart contracts that interact with the blockchain. So he does like he's good with data and like pulling data out of the APIs and stuff. But
Yeah, I
he's
agree
been
with
around and
6-bit
building on Wax
Twitch
for
too.
several years. Like he's actually someone that's been in all of the Wax communities I've been in for multiple years. So as far as people that have been around for a minute, I'll probably vote for Mike D though. I'll just pull this up before we
Yeah,
talk about it.
yeah. Let's see it. I agree with
Wax.
6-bit Twitch too. I think I would support anyone who's like looking to revamp the whole like point system that they have for voting because it is a little like out of whack. At least the way
I
I
don't think
understand.
that's what the OIG does.
No, I don't either. But I would like
Like
to
I don't
see
think
that
the OIG is in charge of
addressed.
reformatting how governance works on Wax.
Yeah, I guess that should be just like the collection of node operators that should be able to vote on shit like that, right? I mean, I'm not 100% familiar with
I'm
it,
not
but I
sure
know
who
that.
does that. As far as I'm aware, the OIG's job is just to judge the blockchain producers based on the criteria that's already been set by the Wax team. I don't think they're the ones that invent the criteria either, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe they are the ones that make the criteria, but I don't think
Yeah,
it's like
6-bit saying
you're not like
they
president of
basically
Wax. You can't just like make up the rules because you become OIG. I think it's like
there's no criteria for products is 6-bit's point. Yeah. I do feel like a lot of the stuff feels a little fly by night. Like whatever the Wax core team wants to happen will happen. But I felt like that since the beginning of my journey on Wax, that like Wax is pretty centralized to the core team, which I'm not necessarily opposed to because we're here like mostly for gaming, and gaming does kind of require that like, developer's hand in like keeping people from cheating or fucking stuff up. But yeah, it's not amazing for
let me read what this
deploying.
says so people
Yeah,
who are
okay.
unfamiliar with the OIG is the Office of Inspector General. The OIG is a watchdog agency for the Wax network, staffed by a committee of 3 elected inspector generals, IGs. It's not a good. IG stands for something much more famous than that. Who publish a report ranking on the guilds on a monthly basis. So they basically just rate the top 21 blockchain producers. From my understanding, the top 21 blockchain producers, they get like compensated for maintaining the Wax blockchain in Wax. In order to do so, they have to file reports each month to say what they've been doing to build tools and maintain the Wax blockchain. So they have to show, like, technically speaking, that their nodes are up and running and they're fast enough to be pushing transactions in time. That's like on the technical side, and that's a requirement. Then the other requirement is you can't just do that. You have to build some sort of tools for the Wax community, which is why you see like pink.gg. They're a blockchain producer. They are Atomic Hub. So Atomic Hub is what they're building for the community. Nefty, same thing. Nefty is they're a guild. They're a blockchain producer, but then they also build the marketplace. Then you have like Wecan. They build Our Planet, and Prospectors are their projects like for the community. So a lot of the like big marketplaces and stuff on Wax are actually blockchain producers, and that's kind of their like side project.
Yeah. Which
But
is
anyway,
interesting model wise.
the OIG, I don't even think the OIG chooses that they're elected. I think what the OIG does is they nominate 21. They're like, these are the best 21 out of everybody that's submitted. And then based on the OIG recommendation, I think all the proxies vote. So like the Wax team votes with the proxies. So like all the top 21 elected blockchain producers, if you look, the same people are voting for all of them pretty much. People are like, oh, it's like, and those are like the proxies by the Wax team, but they vote for whatever the OIG chooses. So it's like not officially, but unofficially, whoever the OIG chooses is automatically elected because the proxies just vote for that, and the proxies outweigh any sort of user vote. So like every user combined, well, that's not true. We could probably outweigh the proxies if all of us were on the same page fighting against the proxies. But in like realistically speaking, whoever the proxies vote for just get elected.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So it's only like the OIGs will determine what the proxies are voting for, not necessarily, what goes, but what the proxies vote for usually is what
that
wins.
is my understanding of how this works, but this is very complicated, and I feel like every time we discuss
Yeah,
this, I learn something new about it. So I'm by no
agreed.
means like an expert in this, but to my understanding, that's sort of what the OIG does is they judge the top 21 blockchain producers, and then based on their judgments, the proxies from the Wax team vote with hundreds of thousands or millions of Wax for these top 21 people.
Yeah,
But anyway,
that's
let's
also
keep reading.
that's my understanding as well.
How is the ranking report relevant? The ratings can be used by Wax token holders to make voting decisions. And that's where it says it can be used by Wax token holders, but the ratings are 100% used by the Wax team's proxies, and that's who's actually deciding the top 21 more so than just average people. Like it's not us that's deciding who's in the top 21 really. And then the aggregated Wax vote determines the rank of the guilds in the blockchain production. The top 21 ranked guilds are the active block producers. Ranked 22 and higher guilds are passing the minimum. Activists are on standby. So standby does not receive rewards, I don't believe, and then only the active do. So they're all battling out to be the top 21 so they can be compensated for running all the equipment it takes to run a node on the Wax blockchain.
Yeah, standby like block producers don't get active rewards, but they will be assigned blocks every now and then to basically keep them. They have to basically keep their operation up to date, but aren't getting paid. So that's not an easy position to be in.
And it says our mission is to evaluate Wax guilds using an evolving heuristic. I don't even know what that word means. What the fuck, heuristic?
No, that's got
use
me
a big word there.
too. Yeah, let me type it up.
I'll have to copy it and paste it just to make sure we know. Enabling someone to discover or learn something for themselves? What? I don't understand what this even means in context. A heuristic process or method? How can your definition of what it is be in there? Like, what is heuristic? It's a heuristic process. Like, what? What a fucking horrible definition. But yeah, I don't know what heuristic process is, to be honest.
Let's see. Dealing with or treating the whole of something or someone and not just a part. Okay.
I mean, I'm just going to say, in context, Wax guilds using an evolving, just like they're changing how they judge this. There is no set standards, which is why I'm saying, like, I feel like it's kind of fly by night, and the Wax team just decides whatever they want.
Yeah.
I think it's the Wax team. I don't think it's the OIG who can just like invent new standards. But also,
that's definitely what they're saying.
On that. I could maybe the Wax OIG does set the standard. I don't actually.
I think that's what that word is saying, though, is that their approach is not like set in stone and is designed to be adjustable as like new information comes to light.
Yeah, I think they're saying this is not set in stone. This is not white paper official. This is all right. Responsibilities. Among the responsibilities of the OIG is overseeing, ensuring the continued evolution and evaluations framework to improve guild rating accuracy, identify and remove operational inefficiencies, and promote healthy competition among guilds. So I feel like that's basically just saying the same thing again. There's not a lot of information. Like that's another thing I don't love about this whole system is like I feel like they should have more than 3 paragraphs on how this shit works. Like seems like a pretty big position and it's very vague. But I will say I like all 3 of the candidates this time. Mike DeFranco, that's Mike D from Waxdow, who we're big fans of. He's been building stuff that like
he's built the Wax DAO.
He's been building stuff that way bigger projects on Wax have failed to build, and then made them open to anybody to use. Like the amount of teams that came in here like we're gonna make a staking system that fucked up. Like I don't know. What is it? R2 or whatever they fucking
oh yeah, unreal.
Butchered the fuck out of their staking system, made a staking system, sold shit for it. They were just like, yeah, this is too hard. We're gonna give people money back you bought into the staking system, but like sorry for the inconvenience. But like that took them a full year and they blundered it. Mike D was on Wax for like less than 6 months and he built a open staking platform so anybody can stake NFTs to an NFT farm.
It's still evolving like all the time. Like now I can go on that Wax DAO and I can personally add funds to existing stake pools that I don't own. Like if I like, staking my Neon tokens to the Neon farm and I'm not, the wallet that created the farm, I could still add to the liquidity pool or the rewards pool. That's really cool. Not saying that people do that or I've done that, but it's cool to see. Like it's just constantly updating with stuff.
Mike has been building for Wax and also not asking for a lot of money. So I do feel like getting a position where he is compensated by the Wax team to continue to build on Wax is good for Wax. Like this is somebody we want salaried by Wax because this is a salaried position. When you are a Wax OIG, you are paid by the Wax team to do this. So like, yeah, he'd be doing this, but you also like have to assume that means he will not stop developing Wax DAO because he has enough money to work full time in the space, which that's another thing you have to think about. And this is like the practical implications of like one of these people is going to be a full-time Wax employee, and which one do you think is going to bring the most to the space when you're voting on them? Nick Custer's.
Yeah, he's got my vote.
Nick Custer's tools. Nick Custer's blockchain tools.
And this, like I said earlier, I think I've always felt that like the Wax kind of like, especially communities like funds and stuff, were very centralized in their distribution. But over the year, or a little over the years, I'd say now is actually legitimate. Over the years, I've seen they are giving money now to people who more deserve it than they used to. It used to be a lot more like it felt like you're giving money to like your pet projects through like the community funds through stuff like Wax Labs. Whereas now I've seen Wax Labs, funding like Chain Champs, funding like Wax DAO style endeavors and like things that are actually building value, not just, giving 500,000 Wax when it's worth a lot of money to like hodl gods or whatever, who I don't know what the fuck they built that compares with what like Wax DAO had built, or with what Chain Champs has built. And it's nice to see that funding not like exclusively funnel into places that don't seem like they're worth the value, at least the value returned to the community, which is the point of the Wax Lab funds.
So this is Nick Custer's tool. He built the like one of these R-point tools that tells you like what Aether's worth in dollars, and you can look at new elements and like he's done this for like mining network. He did this for blockchain brawlers. Pretty much every new game that comes out, Nick Custer's built these sort of tools for. So Nick does, and then Sasha is. I feel like we all know Sasha. Sasha's from Wombat. Or was from Wombat. Now he's from Atomic Hub.
Atomic Hub and Life with Sasha is his like stream where he talks about all things, including Wax and NFT stuff.
Yeah, but his main gig is he's a salaried employee by Atomic Hub.
By Atomic Hub.
I would say honestly, just because like Sasha's not leaving the space if he doesn't get this position, I'd probably rather vote for Mike just because I feel like Mike needs the salary to keep working on Wax, whereas Sasha already has a salary to work on Wax. Like Sasha is going to be working full time on Wax and compensated for it, regardless of if he gets this position. Yeah,
I'm not 100% sure what his role at Atomic Hub is in Adequate Mass. I think it's like a community outreach, community leadership role, but
it might be a product development too. Could
it could be something different.
I think that's what he told me. I asked him on. I can read what he said. I asked him on Twitch at one point. He told me before he's like, just FYI, I am leaving Wombat. And I was like, why? He said he's going to be working on improving and extending. He's a product manager at Atomic Hub.
Okay.
That would not be working on Blockchain Brawlers. Blockchain Brawlers.
That's not even
Atomic Hub.
Yeah, Blockchain Brawlers is a Tyranno Studios. That's a Wax. That's like the Wax core team's gaming studio.
Yeah.
That one is made by them. I think Mike, I forget his last initial, but Mike is the name of the leader of that project, like the project manager, or I'd say
Anybody
like the
can
leader
vote
of
on
the studio.
them too, and you just log in here and you can vote, and you just vote your staked wax. Like this is what this is the governance on wax that you're using your staked wax for.
Yeah, so you can vote on this right now if you want to. And then let's see, I want to see Six Picks question. He says, do you think it would be a conflict of interest for a block producer to take money for products, then double dip and take Wax Labs funding for the same products? I don't know about a conflict of interest, since both of those things serve the same interest. Like you're just using multiple avenues for funding. It might be like you
But
could
funding is
argue
also
that
for separate things. Like the OIG is
yeah,
a job that they're being paid for, and they're being funded separately to build the other things. So I don't
right. But
necessarily
like
think it's
if you're a
conflict of
block
interest.
producer, you do get like you have to build some like utility assets. So then like if you're using that utility asset to validate your block production contribution to Wax, and then also use
Now I
that
understand the
utility
question.
product, to like ask for funding from Wax Labs. I feel
Yeah,
like
I feel like that.
it could be like considered unethical, I would say, because you are double dipping into like money, and the Wax Labs money should
As
be
far as I
reserved
know,
for
though, people aren't
community
doing that.
driven products. And at the end of the
Like
day, block producers aren't the community. Block producers are block producers. So
I
yes, I
check the
think
Wax
it's a little
Labs
bit.
things, and I feel like I don't see the blockchain producers asking for money to develop things,
Yes, that's what I was thinking too. It
which
would
is
feel like
based
a little
on what
bit.
I've seen.
I would say, yeah, it is a bit of a conflict of interest, I suppose, because the interests that are supposed to be served by the Wax Labs funding are the community built asset. Into like the whole point of Wax Labs funding is so that you can have a robust, like decentralized communities of builders who then are compensated for the value that they bring to the space. People like Mike from Wax Labs or from Wax DAO, who did build this stuff on his dime and put this stuff out there for everybody to benefit from. And that should then be like, I would say that kind of stuff should be like actively compensated through Wax Labs. That's what I would vote for Wax Labs on. But I stopped voting on that stuff just because my vote doesn't really matter because of how massive the stake is from the like core team. And when they vote for something, it wins. Full stop. It doesn't matter if everyone else votes for something else. So that's kind of like why I'm like, I don't know. This doesn't feel like a process, like a governance process that is worth my while for participating in. It still feels very centralized to me, which again, I'm not saying is like a negative thing necessarily, but it does definitely feel a lot less decentralized than it could and probably should be.
I don't know who Liquid is. It says Liquid, for example, got funding for Unity SDK and also score points for it on their assessment.
Yeah, that's
So I guess some
definitely
people
like
are double dipping.
that's definitely a bit of a conflict of interest, I'd say, because you're like basically you're being incentivized not to build value if you're doing that shit, because like you would have built that thing anyway to get points for being the BP, and then now you're like, oh, and like pay me back for doing that. That doesn't feel like a smart use of funds. And that's also again like the way those funds had been allocated historically speaking, it was very frustrating to me. So I kind of stopped paying attention just for mental sanity. I don't want to be frustrated all the time. And like I said, I am not necessarily upset by the fact that the Wax blockchain isn't like, a pillar of decentralization.
Also, I didn't
There's
realize this was Wax Labs. I was like, oh, Twitch drops, that's dope. When like they announced that in the Wax server, but I didn't realize somebody paid $10,000 for that.
Oh yeah. That's cool. That's definitely that is a solid use of funds. Like that makes sense to me to do that kind of thing.
I just wonder who
But
got paid for it though, because who's Wax Hive Guild? Oh, this is NFT Hive. So NFT Hive got $10,000 to build the Twitch drops.
okay, yeah, they're also block producers, so
Yeah, so that
it would
is
be
that is literally an example of a blockchain producer double dipping to
yeah.
create a user tool because they are paid to create user tools. They're
And
compensated
now
for
they're
that,
getting paid from the
and now they're
community
getting paid an
funds
additional ten
and
thousand
from the
dollars to build
yeah.
tools. So
I'm
yeah,
not
there it is.
I'm not super happy to see that kind of thing. And that's also why I don't, dig deep into this stuff, especially because you see that kind of thing happening while legitimate indie creators building tools are denied their funding requests on Wax Labs. So that's a little like it'd be one thing if like, oh, indie creators and block producers are getting funded, but it feels a lot more often than not
Chain
block
Champs just got
producers are double
25K.
dipping. That took them multiple times to apply, but I was really happy to see that, and I actually voted on that one.
This is new, I think.
I voted for one that they did for the profile picture project back in the day.
That's
so
not what
maybe
this is. This is
one.
visualizing
Okay.
the Wax blockchain. So that means Chain Champ's been approved multiple times, which I feel like you got to walk back what you just said.
That's fair. Okay. In the past, I was a lot more upset by that, but yeah, it does seem like they are. So Chain Champs, as far as I'm aware, is not a block producer. So seeing them getting funding from this kind of stuff,
and they've probably made like $40,000 to $50,000 off of Wax Labs. Yeah. So they are funding projects made by people that are doing.
They definitely have kind of started like paying more attention to the community, and maybe that has to do with the OIGs actually being active members of the community now versus nameless people who or faceless people who were just kind of like, I don't know, insiders maybe.
Here's the other Wax DAO. Wax DAO is also approved. Mike got
Wax DAO got approved for that. I did see like they definitely started.
Damn, dude, fucking NFT Hive's printing money on this shit. They made 20 grand on the Wax market cap. Like, NFT Hive's making like.
They also they'll make tools that I don't know that people are looking for. Like, I don't know that.
I don't think they should have gotten 20K for that. Like,
that's quite a bit of money for something.
Nobody uses Wax market cap to begin with.
Yeah, and there's already like multiple explorers on Wax that are functional and fine. So. And they're making their own, so it's a little strange to me.
Who approves? Is it the OIG that approves these things?
For Wax Labs, I think anybody can submit a...
No, who approves them, not who submits them.
Oh, that was unclear to me too when I was looking into this. They definitely...
Somebody yesterday told me it is the OIG, but that is literally not written anywhere on the website. So
yeah,
OIG says they advise Wax Labs. So
yeah, see, that's what I thought. It's still like even in the just approval process, feels very centralized. Where it's like anyone can apply, but then we'll tell you what you get to vote on.
It's also funny here, like they hard advertise their own website on a website they're being paid to make. Like, see how NFT Hive's advertised here? Like, they got paid 20 grand to make this website, and then they just hard advertise their own website on it. Like,
that's the other thing. I feel like if you're getting paid community funds to build a community tool, you shouldn't be allowed to use it for personal like advertising gain. And that used to be a thing with Wax Labs, which they definitely didn't stick to. And that was like the reason why they were shooting down Chain Champs' like application for money, because they're like, oh, you're making profit, but then at the same time they had funded things like Hodl God, which is 100% a for-profit game that basically never went anywhere. So for some people, they apparently don't care about that rule, and then some other times they do enforce it, and because of the ambiguity with that, it makes it very frustrating to like try to understand like, wait, how is this decentralized if at the end of the day like I can propose Neon
Wax
Space
isn't decentralized. I feel like anybody who thinks it's decentralized is just mistaken.
Yeah, it very much is not decentralized, which again, there's plenty of decentralized assets out there. Like my favorite is definitely Decred. If you're a huge fan of decentralization, they built everything open source, decentralized. Even the fucking servers that their DEX runs on is a open source piece of software that you can run and compile your own server for. You don't even have to use their servers to use their swaps. So that like if you care about decentralization, there's projects out there that do.
I don't know. If you want to play fucking devil's advocate, decentralization is what Alien Worlds is doing right now. Alien Worlds has decentralized government, and everybody's just funneling money into their own pockets when they're leading it. Yeah. So like decentralization doesn't necessarily work that well all the time. So like I'm fine with Wax being centralized, because like even though they're doing a little bit of shady shit, if anybody who bought as much Wax as they wanted could vote for whatever to pay themselves, like it would be a lot worse. Like if whoever's the biggest whale could just be like, I'm building a website, give me all of the Wax in the treasury, and then they're able to outvote the Wax council or whatever, like somebody would come in and abuse the fuck out of that. Like so I'm seeing it happen in Alien Worlds, and like it's a lot more money to do it on Wax, but there's people out there with the amounts of money that like kind of could fuck the entire Wax market cap. Like a single person has enough money to some fucking crazy Saudi billionaire could come and fuck up all of Wax if they wanted to. So I don't know. The totally decentralized stuff is exploited to all hell always. So like I don't think centralization is bad as long as the centralized people aren't doing a bunch of shady shit. And yeah, Wax Labs approves some stuff I wouldn't, but I think they overall do an okay job. I guess like they are
They've
doing such a
gotten,
bad
I
job.
will
That
say
it
they've
makes me
gotten
not
a
wanna go
lot
to
better.
Wax.
Yeah, they've gotten a lot better since I was paying attention. And I guess I stopped paying attention, like I said, because I was very frustrated. And seeing the stuff that had been funded recently definitely restored a lot of my confidence that they are working towards funding, things that actually build value to the community and not just, are owned by their friends or whatever. It felt like a long
Wax
time ago.
Labs doesn't create contracts as much as they do deliverables. It says you deliver this, and then we deliver this amount. You deliver this, and then we deliver this amount. So they break it down into steps.
Yeah,
Like
it's like
when you deliver this
milestones.
part of your project, you get this amount of funding. So they don't give you all the funding at once. They there's like different steps, and then you get the funding as you complete the steps.
Yeah, it's
Which you
definitely
can see that's all public.
that's done relatively well, actually. It's just the like actual voting isn't super
the
decentralized.
voting
Like,
is just
the
100%
voting is just,
centralized. But again,
yeah, whatever they want to fund, they will fund, and it feels like it's just like, oh, you can vote and you can participate, but it's almost like the like uplift voting, where it's like, sure, everyone can vote, but I have 90% of the voting power. Where it's like, I mean, you guys can all vote no, and then I'll vote yes, and it's a 90-10 split for yes. That kind of a thing, where it's like, it's not a democratic or decentralized process in a sense where it's money that's buying influence, which is kind of not a function of Wax, but just a function of money. But at the end of the day, the person with the most deepest pockets or the most access to the like system has the biggest say, and that's not ideal if you're looking for decentralization.
Oh, look at every game on Wax though. The more decentralized it is, the more broken it is. Like you
That's
have
true.
to have
For
some sort of
gaming,
centralization to stop bad
For
actors.
gaming, I am all for centralization, and since Wax is aiming at being a gaming blockchain, I think it kind of makes sense, the approach that they're taking. Like, it's not a deal breaker for me, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you just need to monitor what the team's doing, and if it becomes a point where you think they're running it so poorly that they're going to fuck up the entire chain, then maybe you panic and leave and sell your shit and be like, fuck it, I'm going to Polygon. But like, I don't really think we're at that point or close to it yet. I think the Wax team has a good understanding of what's happening and is actually developing in the right direction as far as like the roadmap for 2023. I think all that shit's a good idea. So I don't know. They seem to be developing in a way that I appreciate. So I'm not worried about it, even though like, yeah, it's centralized, but as long as the centralized force isn't a complete fuckhead, then who cares? That's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, it's centralized, just like, like Microsoft game studios are centralized. Doesn't mean they're not going to put out good games. And I'm here for the good games more than I am for like, a sound fiscal policy or something like that, which I am interested in that in crypto, but I don't come to Wax for that.
I mean, Wax is not a store of value token. It's
exactly. It's a utility token.
The purpose of Wax is not to increase the value after you buy the Wax. It's to let you do all the shit you can do in Wax.
Yeah, exactly. And I do find myself having quite a decent need for Wax tokens, which is nice to see. Like, I'd like to use them to buy stuff and to like stake my resources and all this stuff. It makes sense why people would buy it to me, but it doesn't make sense for it to, skyrocket to $10 either. But who knows? Market's going to do what markets do. But yeah, that's definitely interesting to like keep an eye on all that stuff though, and be aware of like, the fuckery that goes on behind the scenes, because there is a bit more transparency when it comes to these blockchain assets than you would find, with the, like Microsoft Game Studio. The same shit could be going on at like, at Microsoft or at like what was that one that does like Overwatch and all these ones? Blizzard, yeah, they could all be doing like super shady shit behind the scenes, and probably are. You just never would know about it. So it's nice to be at least able to peer in behind the curtain a little bit with this kind of stuff.
Who was the one? We had an entire stream where we talked for like 30 minutes about some weird breast milk shit. Wasn't that Blizzard? They're doing weird shit. They're stealing breast milk.
They do very weird shit. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. It was like someone who had stored their like pumped their breast milk at work and put it in the fridge. Like someone else.
Blizzard's involved in the black market breast milk game, baby.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. It's interesting to see like having an avenue at like, an insight to that where you normally wouldn't have any of that information available. You kind of do when it comes to blockchains. So you see this type of like, nepotism or favoritism or whatever you want to call it, or like, these conflicts of interests. And it feels like, hey, this shouldn't be happening. But the reason it feels like that is just because you're not used to seeing that kind of stuff. And it usually is happening. It's just weird to see it.
I do think there's a bit of like people aren't wrong when they're like, it's kind of like a fraternity and insiders club. Like it very much is as far as like the top 21 blockchain producers go. So I also think they watch each other's, like they have each other's back. Like the blockchain producers seem kind of like, they're their own fucking group and they're looking out for their own self-interest and they all have the same self-interest. So they're kind of like protective of each other and the system that they've built. So I do think like from the outside looking in, it does kind of seem like, what the fuck are these guys just the only ones making money on wax and they're making all the money, which I don't think is 100% true, but I do think like, I mean, blockchain producers, like, they're running businesses. They have to be a profitable business. So they're all trying to make money on wax. So a lot of them are making the most money on wax as far as like wax projects go, besides like Tokenhead and Funko, who clearly are making the most money on wax right now, which Aloha EOS is invested in by Tokenhead, so they actually are blockchain producers.
Yeah, they have a stake.
Funko, Tokenhead is Aloha EOS, so
yeah. And then I guess to be fair about the whole thing, I think in general, investing and making money is an insider's game by definition. I mean, I'm sure everyone's heard the expression, it takes money to make money. That's what an insider's game is. Like, the more money you have, the more access you have to a, avenue to make money. So making money is by definition an insider's kind of racket, which, I mean, shouldn't be news to anybody really. That's just kind of like the way of the world. Again, it's just nice to have all this like information or the data available that if you wanted to dig, you could dig much deeper than you can dig into other organizations.
Yeah.
And the tech and the possibilities of it all is like mind-bogglingly amazing. But yeah, at the end of the day, it is business. It's people. People are fallible. Business is, after its bottom line. I love the ideals of like a fully decentralized systems, and I participate in decentralized token currencies out there that do it that way. But it's also hard going. It's not so easy to do things in a decentralized way because, again, if it comes down to like token voting strength, like Lewis is saying, if you just buy the biggest share and outvote the rest of the community.
If I'm going to be honest, the most people I see pushing for decentralization on wax are bad actors. Like bad actors are usually the ones arguing like make this more decentralized because they're the ones multi-counting and they're the ones like abusing the fuck out of the system. So like, I don't know. On wax, I feel like the level of centralization we have is fine, and I feel like we could actually use some more. And like, I don't know. My whole thing is I think games should have custodial. Each game should have their own custodial wallet. There should be a blankos where like when you sign up for a game, you just sign up with your email and they hold your keys and your wallet and shit for you. So you don't need to deal with any of that shit. And then if you choose to make your own non-custodial wallet, then you can like send the NFTs out of that wallet into your wallet. But I sort of think all games should have a centralized wallet. And as much as gamers hate it, like they should be able to fucking freeze your shit. Like if you're hacking and stuff, like they should be able to just be like, nah, you can't withdraw from this account. And then
if you exploit the like distribution of like economy, in-game economy, it would be ideal for the creator of that economy to be like, nope, you're not going to be able to cash out by dumping on all our.
And all the people are like, that's not decentralized. It's like,
it's like,
who is that benefiting? It's only benefiting people breaking the system. Like the only reason you'd want that to be decentralized is because you're planning on multi-accounting. Like if you're not cheating and you're not breaking the system, you're not getting banned and they're not freezing your assets. So like, what's the problem? And like, I don't know. But I know that goes against like the whole crypto thing. So it's hard to be like, yeah, that's probably the right move is to let them freeze your fucking assets in your wallet. And that's because 99% of the people actually playing the game are not going to have an issue with that. And it's going to be all the bad actors that get fucked. And they're the ones that scream about that stuff in the chat. Like, I don't know.
I agree. 6-Bit Glitch has got the right idea too. The hybrid model is the best model because it integrates with the existing standard for gaming.
Yeah, Blankos is great. Blankos, I hold my NFTs in their wallet. I can sell them on their marketplace. So I can do it all within their custodial wallet if I want to, but then if I don't trust their shit, then I can go send it to my Ethereum wallet, my MetaMask, and then I can sell it on OpenSea. So I have both options, and I think that's like pretty necessary. Is like as long as we've been in this, it's just like the decentralized shit just doesn't work. Like not a single example of that has like worked super well yet, in my opinion.
Yeah, going 100% decentralized has never been like.
And even when you do like, it takes years to have a mature enough market. Like, because if you just start out with decentralized governance, it's a horrible idea. Like, you need to have the distribution of your token to be in a lot of wallets and stuff before it's actually decentralized. Because like, just because something is decentralized, if one person buys it all, then it's like, well, that's actually centralized. Like, because then the one person's deciding everything. Like, even though it's technically decentralized, you have one person controlling everything. So it's like the dictatorship of decentralization. So like, in order for something to be truly decentralized, you need a lot of people who want that and hold it, and like the value needs to be split up. And that's like the part of decentralization that like I think doesn't actually happen, because like the markets don't get mature enough, and you have like one person who owns 50% of a token, and then they just control the entire market. And then it's like, is that really decentralized at that point? Like, yes, technically it isn't, but then like, you know, in practice it is, because one person controls what happens to the entire market.
Yeah. And even if we just look at in practice of like major decentralized products like Bitcoin, you know, Bitcoin started out as like this, anyone can install the software and run, you know, on your laptop. You can join the network and mine your Bitcoin and participate in this distribution. And today that is still true, but it's completely like worthless, because the mining industry is more or less cornered by industrial interests, people who have, you know, like warehouses full of like equipment, and then, you know, buy electricity in bulk, or straight up set up their own power plants. And, you know, you as a consumer person who should be part of this network but pays, you know, 10 or 11 cents per kilowatt hour, there's no fucking way you're making any type of like reasonable contribution that is compensated in a way to the Bitcoin network, unless you are, you know, like a full-on industrial miner. So even the mining industry,
that's
in the
also though why Bitcoin holds value the best, is because there's so much money behind it and in the production of it that like you can't fake that value.
In that sense too. Like there's quite a centralized organization of mining operations. They also are, you know, watching out for each other's best interests and like keeping each other's back. Like if you remember the whole Bitcoin Cash fork and the like New York agreement leading up to that, where all the miners got together to discuss like the implications of like getting segregated witness to the blockchain protocol, like that kind of stuff is nuts when we're talking about a fucking decentralized network. And ultimately the decentralized market stepped in, and, you know, everyone started running nodes that rejected you know, transactions that didn't include segregated witness, and they, you know, the users activated a hard fork movement in Bitcoin that wasn't driven by the miners. And at the end of the day, the miners are the ones who make all the decisions on how to evolve or develop the like Bitcoin protocol. So if you as a user, you know, don't like something, like, well, you don't really have any say unless you're also a miner, and you then can implement what you want to implement. And unless, you know, the mining community is behind something, it's not going to happen. And that's definitely also, you know, it's decentralized, but it doesn't mean that it works like seamlessly. Like governance is a really difficult thing to decentralize in general, it seems, especially when there's money on the table, you know, like it's hard to get people to turn away from that for the ideology of equality or like even distribution and all that stuff. At the end of the day, you know, if you have enough money to like corner a market, you're incentivized to do that. And decentralized markets do incentivize that kind of thing kind of often. Yeah. But yeah, I could jump into, you guys want to look at the crypto market real quick here? This week was kind of intense or interesting. We got a little bit of a pump. I can share my screen here. Let's jump into some of that. Unless you have anything else you wanted to go over first.
No, I wasn't even planning on going over any of that stuff. I randomly saw someone post in Telegram that they're running for OIG. Worked out.
Nice. Yeah,
I guess that's pretty relevant because the election's happening like right now. So
yeah, that's very relevant. I like that. That's definitely good. Good thing to dive into. Let's take a look at the crypto market this week too, though. So since last week, we've been in our uptrend here, it looks like, and we're right at the top of the basically of the range that we've been trading in since what is this, like early November 8th, 9th or so. We fell into this range and we've been bouncing around in here. And right now we are hovering, right? So we were talking last week, I wasn't going to consider it really much news until we pull above 1350 for a full day close. We're looking right now at the daily candle. We are right around that resistance level, but we're also ridiculously high up on the oversold side of the RSI. And if we take a look at how this price action is related to the last time we were around this price, which would be kind of around here. Close that. Here is kind of around the same price range. You can see during this time, the unbalanced volume here has just been higher still. So we're not making, higher highs on unbalanced volume yet. We're not really breaking out of the range yet. I would still say this isn't really news until we're closing above this B-Bands line. I do expect to see this type of volatility, especially this week, because this week we have in the United States, the CPI report is coming out on Thursday. That's for the consumer price index number. That's basically a report that illustrates how bad inflation has gotten based on consumer goods, like, a gallon of milk and eggs, and the price of, healthcare, the price of transportation, all that stuff together is going to give us a more clear image of what inflation is actually looking like. Also this week, we have the same type of reports, the CPI style reports, being published by multiple international jurisdictions. Like other countries, big economies are also publishing those. So we're getting some macro clarity on the big picture of like how the state of the world economy is currently doing this week. And in anticipation for that, markets are going to get more and more volatile. So this is kind of volatility that we should have expected. And I feel like last week I was saying that, just making it back up to here isn't news to me. This is just standard volatility. I still would stand by that, but I am starting to watch this range here. I want to make sure we don't go above this. Personally, I keep short sell positions while I feel bearish on the market. So if we do start closing days above this 1350 range, I'll adjust my short to maintain my margins. And I would recommend, if you're also short, it's good to have exit points where you cut a little bit of your exposure, just so that you don't just ride your shorts to zero. I would say, looking at this chart, though, we are still seeing very similar to last week. The range is very much intact still. Although, man, we are right on the border right now. So let's see what happens. It's Tuesday now, so we got a couple of days left till we get our CPI numbers. Today, the Federal Reserve Chairman in the United States, Jerome Powell, spoke at a Swiss-hosted like central bank conference, where he basically made statements that suggest that he doesn't feel that it is the United States Central Bank or the Federal Reserve's responsibility to create fiscal policies that are in line or that curb global climate change. Was kind of like the focus of his topics there, which I thought was a little, I don't know, nothing. He didn't really reveal much, but he did say effectively that, he thinks that central banks in general shouldn't necessarily be politicized with political points such as climate change, and that, the focus of the central bank should be moving forward should be to curb and to reduce inflation. And that's his saying. His focus is remaining there, which is to me kind of like signaling a little precursor to further interest rate hikes, because hiking interest rates, meaning making it more expensive to borrow money, will circulate less new money into the economy and therefore make existing money hopefully not inflate as quickly. We're currently, I think, as far as inflation goes in the United States and globally, at like decade-long high levels already. So increasing that inflation rate further would be effectively bad for the value in equity assets like stocks or cryptos. So as the inflation rate gets tightened, gets added to, it's likely we see the people with money basically exit those speculative assets like stocks or cryptocurrencies or whatever else, like possibly even like real estate, stuff like that, because it becomes much more expensive to buy a house unless you're buying your house outright with all the money, which, unless you're some sort of multimillionaire or some sort of corporation, real people, like retail people like you and me, don't buy houses like that. You would buy your house with like maybe a 10, 15, 20% down payment, and then you would take the rest as a mortgage or a loan. So increased interest rates make mortgages much more expensive. And this, in the United States, at least, the way that a mortgage works for purchasing property is that you lock your interest rate effectively in at the current rates that are being offered. And then if the interest rate goes up from there, you're locked in at the previous rate, which is kind of one of the only investment or like debt relationships you can go into with your bank, where the bank assumes more risk than you do effectively. So that's why, a lot of people who refinanced their homes or purchased homes during the pandemic when the interest rates were like 0 or like less than 1%, now are sitting on those houses with a mortgage for that home that needs to be paid with that interest rate locked in. So like, let's say if you got like a 1% interest rate on your mortgage because you refinanced in COVID times, you still have a 1% interest rate, despite the fact that federal interest levels are now 4.3%. So the difference between that interest rate and the new one is like, it's insanely more. So it's basically the value of a house can come down significantly from where it is currently, but the retail person buying that house would effectively be paying the same amount of money. The difference being it's going into the interest instead of it's going into the property value. So as interest rates climb, housing market prices, I imagine, will fall further, but that doesn't mean the houses are getting cheaper, because it's still not cheaper as the end person buying, because you're buying with borrowed money, and borrowed money is getting more expensive. So kind of the short version of all that tech nonsense is that this week we're expecting to see CPI reports, which are going to give us more clarity on the global economic picture. That global economic picture absolutely matters to us in crypto, because crypto isn't some kind of like fringe thing anymore. Crypto does kind of exist now as part of the global financial markets. You have countries like, I think France last week removed capital gains tax implications from the crypto sector. So French, like people living in France, and if anyone here is in France, then you maybe know more about this than I do. But from what I was reading, is if you're living in France and you sell crypto assets, you no longer have a gains or a loss credit tax obligation that you can harvest or that you owe from those transactions. That's a big deal. It makes it very friendly for people to involve, themselves with these kind of assets, which those people maybe would stay away because of the tax implications. I know quite a few people who are like in like higher income brackets or interested in investing finance who stay away from cryptocurrencies specifically because of the underdefined tax implications of what getting involved in these assets could mean. So when major economies like France decide to make such broad changes to that tax implication, that is definitely signaling positive adoption for these assets. But at the same time, like I said, it's an international market, and it is still equity. It's digital equity, effectively, like cryptocurrencies are. And those equities are, probably going to continue to go down as inflation keeps going up. That's just the way it generally works. So let's keep an eye again. The takeaway is, let's keep an eye on our top level here of the range for this chart. The range, we're looking at Ethereum. We're looking for 1350 to basically like 1355-ish area. We can tolerate that. But then if we see a full 24-hour period start to close above the 1350, 1355 mark and stay there, it's time to reconsider our short positions here. For now, we're not seeing that yet. And like I said, because we're right on the line, We're going to have to look at some of our other indicators to get a little bit more bias here if this feels like we're going to break through or not. And because on the daily we are very much overbought, and on our on balance volume, which these are the two indicators I like to frequently use together, on our on balance volume. So we're looking back. Here's like the last time we had, we just peaked up to this price, but last time we were actually hovering around this price point would be around here, and the unbalanced volume significantly higher at that range too. So I would say we're not yet making a higher high again. This is also still feels very ranging. We're still pretty flat here, I would say. So I would not be surprised to see CPI reports coming out indicating there's quite a bit of realized inflation in the cost of consumer goods, and a lot of these markets turning down in response to that. We're also very closely, I think, moving along with. So if I reset this chart exactly to here and then take a look at the SPY, we are getting very similar like peaks and valleys here. So I think we are still following the SPY, which is the S&P 500 indicator on the New York Stock Exchange, and that's also getting the D here stands for dividends. So dividends had been paid, and now we're approaching again overbought. But you can see much more clearly here, despite the fact that the price is pretty like reasonably climbing, the unbalanced volume is still clearly selling off. So this indicates to me like, sure, the spot price might be ranging a bit and maybe looking like it's coming back up, but the unbalanced volume paints a different picture, and that picture suggests that money is still leaving the equity market. Money leaving the equity market would suggest lower equity values. So personally, I'm still very, very much a bear in all of these, in light of all of this stuff. So it is. Let me turn a little bit off of this like doom and gloom kind of, because I have been a bear for a while when it comes to assessing this price. And I will say it was really pleasant to see some green in the markets for a few days here, and seeing a lot of like our altcoins also do some pretty like a few of the positions, doing like 10+% in a day for multiple days in a row. It does start to feel very like, oh, the bulls are back in town kind of. And it's a really fickle community of people watching these markets that really don't have a foundation within finance to kind of understand maybe that's not what a bull market turnaround looks like, So like a lot of people see a few days of green and they're like, oh shit, load your bags, like let's jump back in. And it's important, I think, to remember that this market has a lot less liquidity than it used to at the peak. It takes a lot less money to make the price go up and down at the moment. And, keep your wits about you. Just because we get a few days or even weeks of like kind of sustained upward momentum doesn't necessarily mean the long-term picture is flipping back to like, moon time. And, yeah, personally, I'm kind of like keeping my distance here, keeping my sentiment short until I see the things that I had been looking for to begin with. And like, last time here, we also saw multiple weeks of kind of like climbing, even a big climb here. And then we were rejected last time and dumped back down, didn't make a new low, kind of been climbing again. We're testing it again now. It's been very slow going, kind of uninteresting. And, that kind of has led me into looking at some opportunities out in the market to invest into these like concepts of like, well, I know that there's big macro environment like things happening this week, such as the CPI reports from multiple countries, and that kind of historically generates volatility. But I maybe don't know which direction is that volatility going to go, up or down. And so making a short or a long play might not be my my wheelhouse right now, because I don't know, which direction to choose. And then I don't want to, just pick one and lose. So what I found like very interesting and had been paying attention to for a while, but kind of am finding a decent opportunity right now. And I'll just talk about this for just a minute because it is outside of wax, but this is something I think is really fascinating. But the CPI or CVI volatility index here So the crypto volatility index is a kind of an experimental product on this is on Polygon, but this I've been participating in their governance for almost 2 years now. So they have like a Blvd token is like their governance share, which you can use to like vote on stuff. But their product here is the volatility index. So this is I'm just gonna really quickly kind of cover this because it's relatively complicated and extremely experimental. But this is a rebase token that its value is between $200 and $0, and that value is determined by the amount of volatility in the crypto market. So as the market goes flat, like we've kind of seen for the last, this is quite a while, since November. So this is pretty fucking flat for like crypto market. And even before that, it's like kind of flat. We got a little volatility here this would be around like I think the FTX markets were getting kind of crazy around then as well. But for the most part, it's been relatively flat for a while. And you can see like, this is volatility where this is harder to call this flat than this. But we've been flat for a while. And as it's flattening out, the value of the volatility index is decreasing. So you can see currently a share of these volatility shares, which are CVOL, are $51 USDC. And the way that you can purchase them is either buying them from a swap. I think on QuickSwap there's liquidity for this, on 1inch possibly as well, but I guess 1inch is an aggregator. But either way, you can buy them from a decentralized marketplace, or you can mint them. So right now they're being minted for 51.41. So if I say mint, I could bring US dollar coin here. I haven't connected my wallet, but you could basically mint them, and then you would have to wait an amount of time. Depending on how much time you decide to wait, you get a slightly different price on them. But you can do this with relatively endless amounts of money without incurring slippage by buying them, by minting them this way. But you also need to mint them and then wait for your predetermined time before they become like available to claim. And then if you own these CVOL tokens, you can also burn them by toggling here, and you burn them and you receive back USDC at the current price. So basically, as this token has a reservoir, basically a vault here of 365 million USDC currently. It'll accept up to 4 million. So if you wanted to, you could just deposit USDC and participate in the vault. But this token will rebase and pay out for its shares in USDC, and that rebase is based on the volatility. So in a interesting kind of a conceptual play here for the coming weeks or months would be, currently the volatility index is very low, lower than it historically has been for a long time. And with macroeconomic picture events such as the CPI reports and future inflation hikes on the horizon, those types of events tend to increase volatility. If it's favorable news, the market might pump and aggressively pump. If it's negative news, we might see a steep sell-off. So either way, it's volatility, and this would let you effectively bet on that the market will become volatile, not a direction of which that volatility will take place. So you could mint yourself, or you could go to QuickSwap and purchase yourself some CVOL, and then just wait for the markets to get a little bit more crazy. And as they get more crazy, the value of the CVOL will go up. And that going up is based on the rebase protocol here. So the protocol will start charging more to mint the tokens, and will start paying more for burning the tokens. And there is a arbitrage opportunity between the open market and the burning market here. So as the volatility index increases, the protocol will offer more USDC to basically buy back its tokens, and then you could buy them from an exchange and burn them on this platform to capture that arbitrage. So you usually get a very similar price between buying them and minting them. But yeah, this is an interesting concept. You can come and on your own time kind of like read the docs and read about how it's actually like distributed and funded. And like I said, this is relatively experimental, very kind of like high concept, but it is a very interesting asset. I thought I'd point it out. And like I said, I really like the CVI finance here. I like what they've built. I've been participating in their governance for a long time. And it's really cool to see these volatility index assets kind of like, or just in general, crypto assets embracing these type of, more experimental kind of like assets that you don't really see as often in legacy finance, or if you do, they're very permissioned on who can participate in them and with how much money and all that stuff. So it's nice to see all this stuff publicly. But I just wanted to touch on that as part of Tech Talk. I liked this it's a very interesting concept, and like I said, the market's been relatively flat, and because of that, we are seeing a pretty low cost for the CVol, historically speaking. Like they're like hovering around $100, so it's almost 100% profit that we could find here if the markets get more intensely volatile here. And then again, during times like the Luna collapse, for example, and stuff like that, the volatility of the markets goes so high, this volatility index does very well. So as just like a interesting strategy in general to basically participate in purchasing CVol tokens when the market's just been flatlining for a while in anticipation of volatility. And the nice thing about this type of asset is we don't have to pick a direction. We just have to pick, a time when volatility will come. And, it might be still kind of early, and we might keep flatlining for a while. So we might have a few like weeks still left before this actually starts seeing a rise. But historically speaking, these markets do get more volatile when moving starts happening. And this is an interesting way to capitalize or participate in the volatility, like buying the volatility of the crypto market. Feels like an interesting investment to me. I'm going to drop it there, though. If you want to learn more about it, it's cvi.finance. I can paste that into our chat really quick if you want to mess with this yourself or just read the documentations. As usual, this stuff is fascinating. So, take your time and read through it. Even if you don't buy it or participate in it, it's just interesting. It's really cool what is being built on top of these smart contract chains, and it's really fascinating the math behind keeping, a rebase token pegged to the volatility index. Like to me, that's fascinating. So if you're in my boat there and you like that kind of thing, check it out. So I shared that in the chat. But for now, let's jump back over to Wax. We took 100 Wax. So we've been investing it every week when we're on stream. So let's take a look at how we did this last week. Last week we stayed in the USDC USDT pool, and this was almost 100 Wax. And you can see, as Wax climbed, we lost some of our Wax value. So we're down 4 Wax, or 4%, if you will, because we were at around 100 last week. We're down 4 Wax this week, as our position has sold some of our Wax and used that to buy some more USDC. So you can see now we currently have 26 Wax, 0.1 whatever, and then $3.7 USDT that we started with, and now we're up at 47 Wax 0.8 and $2.28. So you see we went from 50 something Wax down to 47, and then our USDT side increased slightly. Based on what we just talked about with the Ethereum charts, I still am not convinced that we're out of a downtrend. So I'm going to keep this position untouched. And I also noticed that we have 21 Wax just chilling in Wax in the wallet. So at the end of last week, we did not have any liquid Wax. That means one of our limit orders must have filled. So let's go back over to, we're going to go to Alcor Swap. And then I went on the wallet tab and then clicked the history tab. And here we can very quickly get an overview of what has happened recently within the wallet. And so we can see here this last week. So this is 2 days ago. It looks like we had 2 of our orders fill where we sold 10 Wax and for 7.5 Wax, sorry, for 10 Wax. So 7.5 for honey. Let me say this right. And we got 10 Wax for that at a price of 13 or 1.32 Wax per honey. And then our other order filled as well, 7.547 honey for 10.86 Wax. So this is where our 21 Wax that we have in the wallet right now comes from. And so let's take a look really quick. Last week when we had pulled our honey out of Taco, it was selling for 0.6 wax, and we decided that we wouldn't want to sell at that low price, and rightfully so, because we've set limit orders, and we actually sold it for more than double what it was selling for when we first pulled out. So well done. That was a good idea. So let's take a look back at the market and honey, and we can see if we have any orders left here. We do not. If we click on trade history, we can see both our orders have sold, and the current spot price is asking for almost 2.5 wax here. So there's a massive divide between the bid and the ask. So this spread would be great if you're if you already have some honey, you could place some honey sell orders at 2.49 while they currently are swapping over on let's go to Taco Swap. One honey on Taco Swap. Honey for wax.
Looks in the background here, talk about alien world governance. I'm not paying attention to all the streams. Sorry, everybody, but shit's heating up in alien worlds. Like, there's been some custodians that are like basically just have more stake than anybody else. They're just hopping from planet to planet and emptying the treasuries into their own wallets. So like now my planet's freaking out. They're like, we have like 200,000 TLM that we've been saving to like pay for a good project when it comes up. But now that like, so it might just be stolen from us. We basically have to like find a use case for an ass ton of TLM. Like they're freaking out.
Yeah. So here, by the way, I'm looking at the honey price, and since last week we were like, it's too low to sell. Since then, it's up 140% in the swap. So now, if we wanted to, we could actually sell our honey. Like this is a lot more reasonable, I would say. I was considering a fair value for honey around 1.4 wax. So we're at almost 8. This is not terrible. It looks like somebody knows something we maybe don't. Possibly honey is going to offer incentives again. Maybe they already have. Let's take a look. Let's see. So we're jumping back over to the meal tab, and let's check if honey has a pool. So it's only this aqua pool. This has been there for a minute, and I don't really know the aqua token. I haven't done research on it, and I'm not interested in being paid a reward in a token that I don't understand well enough. So that's not what we're looking for. But again, it's nice that we paid attention. That's why we participate in assets that we understand, like honey, so that when we did remove our liquidity, we understood that that is not a good price to sell at. And what we ended up doing was putting our honey into the staking position. So since last week, we have earned, let's refresh this. It might be a little more than that, but probably not. Let's see. We've earned this basket of assets. So almost 1 dim, quite a bit of like a fraction of steam, almost, a third of a THC, some more honey, some Astra. So adding all this stuff up together, we could basically come up with a value with like an APY, like how much is honey paying us. This week honestly hasn't been that aggressive because these rewards come from drops on NFT Hive. And this week just hadn't had a lot of big drops happening, so we didn't really see a huge influx of tokens. But hey, our honey supply is untouched. It's not in risk of going up or down. Mostly down if the price pumps. If we had stayed in the liquidity pool, we would have had, our honey sell into wax. So like right now, I think it's hard to say if we should keep it or sell it. And whenever I feel like that, I think the best idea to do is to split the difference. So let's sell.
Baka is also asking, does honey have a max supply?
Honey has a 1 billion token max supply. Yeah. So we can come over here to honey info, and then you have the max supply, total supply of honey here, 100,000 million billion. So it is capped at 1 billion tokens with only 57,000 of these tokens in circulation currently. So the amount of tokens in circulation represent a 0.005% of the entire supply of honey. So again, honey tokens are distributed by people using the NFT Hive platform to buy and sell NFTs. Every 100 wax worth of transaction volume that you put into the honey market, you receive 1 honey, and you claim that honey simply here by on your wallet tab. You will see it if you've done those transactions to satisfy the condition. it'll have a claim honey, and you can just claim just like how I can claim these right here. Aside from that, there is an amount of honey that seems to be allocated to rewards for liquidity pools, because there was a liquidity pool that was paid in honey on NFT Hive. That honey, I assume, comes from the honey distribution. I don't think people are buying it off the market and then adding it to there. So I'm not 100% sure what percentage of the honey token is being distributed through the incentive program and what percentage is allocated to the reward side of things. But there does seem to be, a distribution model in place, and it's very clearly not pumping these tokens out very quickly. I mean, 52,000 of a 1 billion market cap that's almost like pre-launch amounts. Like normally you'd want to see at least 1% of a circulating supply in the liquidity pools for a healthy token economy. But again, notice I said of the circulating supply, not of the total supply, because the total supply isn't issued yet. I actually don't mind that it is so much higher than what it currently has out, because as long as they stick to what they say they are sticking to, it doesn't really devalue my honey position. And also the fact that it requires 100 wax worth of transaction volume. Today 100 wax isn't that much. I think 100 wax is going to cost you like maybe $4 or something, possibly less than that actually. Whereas if wax increases in value and that distribution model remains at 100 wax, the value of honey should also keep a peg then to wax, in the sense that it becomes much more dollar expensive to farm honey by doing transactions on NFT Hive. Right now, not a bad proposition here to get paid in honey. But it's also nice to see this crazy pump, because this pump in honey token happened today. So you can see when I checked the honey market a second ago, honey for wax, and then the fact that we see it, this steep fall off here in the 24-hour windows. So that's happened in the last few hours. And that fall off, since we're looking at dominated in honey, just means it now costs 40% less honey to buy wax, which is the same as, an 80% pump in the value of honey to wax. So we went from, being worth 1 wax to being worth almost 1.8 wax. So yeah, this kind of tracks with the 80% pump here. Again, I'm not sure, but it's because, honey's, if we check advanced settings, or let's check liquidity. If we look at the liquidity side of things, there is only, 2,862 wax worth of liquidity in this pool. It doesn't take much to jump the price that much, so it went, from 2,200 to 2,800. That's only 600 wax. So if somebody came along and bought 600 wax worth of honey from the swap, that could be the only thing that caused this pump, because the liquidity depth is so low. But either way, the takeaway is that last week we had our honey, we didn't sell it because we found the price to be not favorable. And then this week we show up and, lo and behold, the honey that we didn't want to sell at these low prices last week has already sold for more than double that. And all we did was set limit orders and waited. And we only had to wait 1 week. And like you can see here, both of our orders filled. And we, maybe we could have spaced them out even further if it's hard to know when somebody comes along and, spikes the price like that. So right now, again, it's, almost 2.5 is the limit here. And there's a 59% divide between here. So I was saying I like honey at a price of 1.4. Because we're at 1.8, I'm thinking we take half of our stake and remove it. So half of this is going to be 4.5 honey. I'm going to unstake that and sell it into wax. That gives us the ability to take profit and also retain exposure should the price continue to climb. But again, we kind of thought, 1.4 wasn't a bad deal last week. And we can get almost, 7.8 wax for this, which as a whole on our investment here, we started with 100 wax. This is like almost 8% of our total realized just by this trade. So wonderful. Let's do that. Aside from that investment, so we've looked at our USDT and our honey so far. We also have liquidity in the Wombat pool. The Wombat pool is currently still streaming rewards. So if we come to the meal tab on Taco and toggle to staked, we can see there's still 35 days left of Taco rewards. I'm sorry, of Wombat rewards for the Wombat wax pool. It represents 178% APR. I still very much like this pool, and the fact that it's still paying these rewards for a full month, I'm thinking maybe we participate further in this pool with our earnings. So let's collect the earnings from the week. We come up here to count rewards, and then you can see we've made 64 Wombat tokens just for having liquidity in that pool. So let's claim those as well.
I'm probably late to this, but Wapaka said, okay, to mine this token, but buying no. When the release supply will be 10 to 20% of max supply, the price will surely be cheaper. Toon also said, nice, the honey that I still had paid for my Slenderman naked.
Hey-oh. Yeah, I had so when Honey first added its liquidity to the market, I had 400 Honey tokens just staked to NFT Hive over here. And just like I just split the difference, the second they added it to Taco and gave these rewards, the token price jumped to like a ridiculous amount, like 6 or 7 wax per honey. And so what I did was I took my 400 honey, unstaked all of it, sold 200 of it, and matched that into the liquidity pool. And then I was earning honey on top of that. And all the honey I earned, I just restaked into my staking balance. And at the end of the liquidity pool, I removed what was left. And at that point, because honey had fallen off over the course of the mining phase, honey had fallen way down from when I started at like 6 or 7 wax back down to like 0.6, almost 10x down. My position at that point was, I think I went from having 200 honey paired against like 800 wax or something at the start of the liquidity mining to at the end I had back to 400 honey on the honey side, and I had still like 300 something, almost 400 wax on the wax side. I think I might have 450 honey or something. So after everything was done, I ended up with 700 honey, and I pocketed the 400 wax as an additional, as profit effectively. So liquidity farming with that kind of strategy for me worked really well. I doubled my position in honey, and I pulled 400 wax out. So let's try to do something similar here. I've just claimed the Wombat liquidity that we earned, and let's take a look really quick what that liquidity is worth in wax. Almost 3 wax. So not bad. And I feel like compounding into this pool, since there is no other pool that I'm currently really hyped on, but let's just verify that by looking through the current pools. Maybe we'll find one that was added recently that we're super hyped on. Heroism wax is the top one here. I don't know what this token is. It has 17,000 wax in the wax side of things. That's not nothing, but it's also, I just don't understand. I don't like to jump into just ape into something unless in that case, I would have to see a much higher APR. So I feel like we did ape into stuff in the past, but the APR was 3,000 or 4,000%, not 800. So let's take a look if there's any of these tokens that we actually are familiar with and like their tokenomic policies. So Fate I'm familiar with, but Star I'm not. Same with Aqua. I don't know about that one. Same here we have Wombat and Star. So quite a few of these tokens that either one or both of them I am not familiar with. And I need to be comfortable with both sides of the equation because the equation can tip in either direction. And I need to be okay with owning the stake that I purchased, in this pool. So none of these are really jumping out at me as something I feel like worth participating in. And now we're already down to 250% APR. The pool that I did had 180, which is too close to 250 basically for me to risk my wax with some token that I'm unfamiliar with. So I think let's continue to compound into the wax Wombat pool. And let's take the wax that we earned this last week from selling those honey limit orders and from just selling half of our honey that we've saved from last week till now and add all of that into the wax Wombat pool. So the way we want to do that is we'll check add liquidity. We have 28 wax, which requires a 652 counterpart. We already have 65, so we need about 570 for the counterpart here, but we need half of that. So that's what, 200 and let's say 70 wax. 270 wombat, sorry. So then what I'm going to do is come over here and buy 270 wombat with the wax that we have. So I want 270, or I guess I could just do half of this, which is 14. But because we already have the 65 wax, and 65 wax is worth about 3, 65 wombat is worth about 3 wax. I'm just all over the place with that. Keep calling it wrong. So then I wouldn't want to do, I would basically want to remove the 3 from here first. So 25. So then that would be 2 point. Let's just do 2.5. We can go from there. And then there we're back to like what I was saying about 275 wombat. So let's buy that. That should effectively split the amount of wax that we have in this wallet, 50-50 wombat wax. And now we can just come back up here to the liquidity tab, add our wax, and we should have the counterpart to cover it. Almost do. There we go. Add liquidity. And then let's take a look at how we are sitting, moving into next week. So it looks like we're currently sitting on 56 wax on the wax side, meaning that the wombat side is also worth 56 wax because this liquidity pool is a 1-to-1 ratio pool. Like all of the liquidity pools on wax right now, there aren't any weighted ones as far as I'm aware. So this pool is worth 112 wax, which is already more than double what we started with. But on top of that, we still have, 4.5 honey staked, and we also still have 100, almost 100. Let's see. I'm going to refresh this so we can update so 96 wax. So we're basically at 210, close to that. 210 wax worth of wax, and we started with 100. So we're doing pretty well. Happy to report that we're double what we started with less than 6 months ago in terms of wax. So not bad, but of course wax has also been down quite a bit. And if you had just bought $10 worth of wax today, which I think we started with around $10, it might be, let's see how we did compared to that. If we just buy wax for cash, USDT is the one that has deepest liquidity. $10 today would get us almost that. So we've effectively not lost any value in dollars, and we've kept pace with our wax value in terms of dollars, despite the fact that the wax price has dumped over the last 6 months. So that's kind of a nice takeaway to like end this little segment on, where by participating in these types of positions, even when the market is turning down, we are at the very least keeping pace with the value that we started with. And that is pretty important, especially if you're not in the business of just hodl and going down with the ship, kind of play the violins as the ship sinks. I
saw someone post there like the hodl culture is like during a bull market is the worst part of crypto. Like,
yeah,
people telling you to hold money when you hold when you're making money is like, that's actually kind of horrible advice. Like, should not be listening to fucking Wall Street bets on your fucking
our goal when the markets start turning bull again will also be to grow our wax. And if wax is climbing in terms of dollars, that proposition gets a lot more tricky. So stay tuned and we'll see how that all plays out. For now, we're doing relatively well, and our objective was clear from the beginning. We want to turn 100 wax into more than 100 wax, and we are effectively doing that. And yeah, I think on that note, that kind of covers my overview of what I wanted to talk about the market. So just to give a quick recap, we looked at the crypto market by peeking at
Matt just said HODL equals somebody else's exit liquidity.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's probably who's telling you to HODL. The people telling you to HODL are probably the people selling all the way down. They're probably like, yeah, man, hold. Keep that price up.
It's just keep holding. Keep your money in the liquidity pool that I'm using to exit out. Yeah. So like the reality is, HODL is not like a bad idea as far as like HODL when you're panicking. Like making decisions when you're panicked, when you're panicked or when you're like...
I think all of it is just have a plan. Like, don't hodl just
Exactly.
because some like lunatic told you to hodl. Like, hodl because you have a sell point
Yes.
that you set beforehand and hold until then, and then sell when you
Yeah,
hit there.
you haven't hit your targets, then it's okay to hodl, but you should have, like, investing is having a plan and then sticking to your plan. Not like, oh, I have a plan to sell, when Bitcoin hits 50,000 and then Bitcoin goes to 55 in one like crazy day, and then you shouldn't adjust your plan because, oh, what if it goes to 65 tomorrow? Doesn't fucking matter. You hit your goal, you take your profit because you're not gambling, because you're an investor. You have your plan, you're going to stick to your plan. Otherwise, you're not investing. Otherwise, you're speculating, and you're trying to speculate in real time, and you're updating your strategies as market conditions change. It's just not, in my experience, hasn't been a winning strategy. It took me a long time to kind of like get that discipline out.
Wapaka's
To
out here
take
trolling,
profit.
saying hold your AXB, wait for $1. That's actually a good segue. There's a blend happening right now. If you bought into Wax Arena, at one point we were in Wax Arena. Our cards give us utility, so I know some of our collectors bought into Wax Arena. There's a blend going on where you can blend your dead NFTs into Nova Pangea stuff.
Yeah, I blended a lot of my stuff. As part of the little quick recap of what we talked about on so we looked at the Ethereum
Wicked had a
market.
question that is very relevant to this. It said, sorry I missed the beginning. Are we selling the honey we bought last week?
Okay, so the honey we bought last week, we had a few limit orders last week, and we bought honey at 0.6 wax because we thought 1.4 is a good price. As of today, honey's at 1.8, and because I wasn't sure if, like, should we sell it or should we not, we sold half of our position. So we kept 50% of the honey staked, and we've unstaked half of it and sold it for like 140% profit over the buy price last week. When you see that amount of profit by just selling half, we're making back our principal and then some. So yes, sell half is what I would do as far as my non-financial advice goes. But yeah, there's no point in, we've made, looking at that chart since last week, we're up 143% on our honey. There's no point in trying to ride that for 200%. Like, that's, take profits on the way, and we set a target at 1.4, 1.5. We're beyond the target. It's a good time to capitalize on that. I still like the honey, so we still have, 4.8 or something honey, but it's definitely not a bad idea to sell when you have the opportunity to more than 2x your money in a week. But yeah, I burned a bunch of my Wax Arena stuff. Let me just finish the last of my recap. So we talked about the Ethereum market. Then we looked at the 100 Wax investment and restructured that. We sold some of the honey. We compounded into the Wax Wombat token liquidity pool because it's still going for a little over a month. And then we also looked at the CVI Finance volatility index. So that is it's a Ethereum based project, but it's operating on Polygon, so the second layer 2 Polygon chain, and that is a CVI index. It shows the crypto market volatility, and they have an asset called CVOL, and that is an asset whose price is correlated to volatility in the crypto market. And so we were looking at how the crypto market has been flatlining, and that maybe is creating an opportunity to make a play on volatility rather than trying to guess which direction the price is going to move. And we didn't go too deep into that because that might be a little bit obscure, but I'm a big fan of those types of assets, so I wanted to touch on that really quick. And yeah. And this.
All right, so here's the Nova Pangea thing. When I posted a link in Discord, I'm also still talking about this alien world governance thing is fucking occupying a lot of space in my brain. They're like, the council were on, they're like, hey, we're going to buy lands and then put it in a multi-state contract between two of us. It's just like, what happens if you're unelected? Then, like, you just own land that, like, it's like, that doesn't seem good for the council. I don't like that. Like, I don't know, because we're afraid people are going to steal all the TLM. So it's like, we need to spend the TLM on something big quickly. But it's like, how do we spend it on something that can't also be stolen by the next person who...
You should just volunteer to accept the TLM, and you're a doxed person in the space, and be like, I, pledge not to spend it.
Yeah, I don't know. We're brainstorming right now. Because the other thing is, what I've been saying is, like, as a Alien Worlds council member, just giving away TLM is bad for the price of TLM. Giving away TLM, people to sell it every week. You can go look at the Naren we're sending to people. They're just dumping and they're turning it into wax. So like us giving away a bunch of TLM is hurting the price of TLM, which the community loves it because they're getting a bunch of free TLM. But it's like ideally we would be building something for the use case of TLM, like spend TLM to hire a developer that makes a game that burns TLM. So then we're reducing the supply of TLM and then increasing the value of the TLM we're giving away, rather than the opposite, which if we just give a shit ton away, all of us combined are devaluing TLM. So I was like, I personally would like to have a stash to pay developers, which is the annoying thing because now like somebody might steal our entire stash. It's like we don't make enough a week to pay a developer, so we'd have to be like, that's why we're only spending 50% because we're saving the rest to hopefully pay someone for a cool project. This whole like bad actor thing is fucking that entire thing, and that's again why I'm saying like, totally decentralized stuff.
Decentralization at its finest. Yeah, that's decentralization at work. It's definitely so the ideal scenario for decentralization is that participating in the network is incentivized by the participation, and that's definitely not necessarily the case with the TLM side of things. Like the fact that you can be voted in and then like vote to clear out a portion of the treasury within like a short amount of time without having a vested interest in TLM yourself is a problem for me.
I would interest in TLM.
You don't have to have one. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can vote yourself in for that time while you have it locked for 90 days. That's, I guess, the 90 days.
It is technically against the terms of service because you're not allowed to multi-account. And the people that are doing this are running 3 accounts and then voting for themselves. So like, but they also can't do anything about it. It's decentralized. Have fun reversing those blockchain transactions.
Yeah. Oh, I like Least Comics move too. You can do buyback of Alien World's assets. Just use the TLM, trade it to wax, buy assets.
That's actually kind of an interesting idea.
And burn them. That's clever, and it raises all ships. You know, it's the rising tide approach, where like like big whales benefit from that, but so does everybody.
Max is not running for OIG. Zeroba.
No, yeah, I'm not.
I think I'm safe to say I'm backing. I can't speak for Mark and Max, but I'm backing Mike D from Waxed Out. Mike D's.
I'm also behind. You can speak.
I also think he's more qualified than either of us to be in that position.
Yeah, he's also really, really heavily involved in like development side of things. That I feel like I'm much more involved as like a user and as like an observer who like, I guess maybe has a bit of perspective from outside of this specific crypto space from the general crypto space, but I think Mike is much more the worker, like working on this stuff.
He was also, I mean, he got some funding from Wax Labs. Before that, he was working pretty much for free to build all this crazy utility that helped a ton of indie creators. So like, I don't know, people that are willing to build and aren't making a ton of money and like still just do it because they want to, like, I don't know, that's the type of person we want on Wax. That's what, like, I don't know. He doesn't seem as financially motivated as some of the other developers in Wax, which everybody's financially motivated. Everybody wants to make money. I don't think making money is a bad thing.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
People who are only interested in the money and are willing to like fuck people over to make that money, there's a lot of that in the space of the people that are like, seem to kind of be like, yeah, I'd rather like do the right thing even if it makes me less money. That's rare, and I feel like that's what Mike's been doing. Like, he probably could have made
not just saying, but doing. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like he has a track record of that, and he has my support for it. I'm gonna vote for that. I have a few thousand.
I like all 3 of them, honestly. If we could just get rid of the 2 dudes in there and elect Nick Custers, Sasha, and I'd be like, yeah, put all 3 of those guys in there and fuck whoever's in there now. I don't know any of the people that are currently elected. And all 3 of the people running now are like actual people that have been involved in the Wax community for at least, I think Sasha's the newest out of all those, but yeah. Nick Custers has actually been around the longest. I would guess just based on like name recognition, maybe. I don't know though, because Sasha's also like made a name for himself. They're all kind of like moderately popular people on the Wax blockchain. But we'll see. We'll also see, like, I don't know who's gonna vote.
We will. I'm curious to see who wins out of them. That's definitely a good list of candidates. So I'm really excited that all of the candidates are solid choices. But I'm voting for Mike.
Yeah, this is what Pock says. People from the community as Wax OG is same for BPs. That's what I like to see more of. I don't know.
Yeah.
We've talked about we'd love to run a B blockchain producers, but like it's just too expensive. It doesn't make sense. for us currently. But if we're on Wax long enough, and who knows if we get lucky in other crypto endeavors, maybe we'll reinvest it into Wax blockchain production in the future. But realistically, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I feel like NFT Gamer TV would be a good blockchain producer. I'd vote for them.
I agree with that too. They're definitely like finger on the pulse, participating actively in the space. I like to see that when it comes to people who have any sort of governance influence. They should at very least know what the fuck's happening in the indie side of the space.
TD's also building tools for the Wax community. Like he built that whole like
the extension.
That's the other thing is like we're not developers, so like we would have to build stuff for the blockchain production for the Wax team. Is like I don't know, we're super unqualified to be doing that. On top of it costing too much money, we're also not smart contract and blockchain developers that could be building like I don't know. It's a bucket list thing. One day I'd like to be a blockchain producer, but it doesn't seem realistic at the moment. I don't know. Do we have any? I guess we can look at Funko's happening next week, but that was pretty much everything we had scheduled for today. Funko Digital.
Yeah, I think I'm about to pause. Food's about to be ready too, so I'm okay with winding down, and we can poke at Funko next week. Tuesday will be a Funko drop, so we can take a look.
I have no fucking idea what this is. Yep. Sid and Marty Croft pictures.
Nope, that's
something people are supposed to know what it is. Like,
I don't recognize that character either. I definitely don't recognize the name. I'd never heard of that.
This is a TV. This guy's born in 1929. How fucking old is this thing? It's a Canadian sibling television creators. So I guess they made 1970s TV shows. What a fucking obscure.
What a niche. Yeah, damn.
I will say though, Funko collectors are generally older people. Like the people spending a lot of money on Funko probably were alive during the 70s. Maybe that's a broad overgeneralization, but I do feel like, like the people spending a lot of money on collectibles are definitely like older people. Like the target audience for Funko isn't necessarily 12-year-olds. Like it's older people with money. So like this could do okay. Like I have no idea though.
What's the mint structure? This feels like it should be low. Like I don't know.
I don't know if it tells you at the 12,500 packs. So yeah, it is low.
Okay. At least they know that they're not like releasing a Game of Thrones thing here.
Sid and Morty just reminds me of Rick and Morty. I'm like, did they fuck up Rick and Morty? Yeah, let's view the redeemables. Horatio J. Hoodoo. I feel like that sounds like it's problematic in like multiple. I feel like this is like
that should have stayed in the 70s.
I feel like this is like offensive to what is Horatio? What is that like Spanish? I don't know. It's offensive to wherever Horatios come from. Then I feel like hoodoo is like a weird like voodoo like. I don't know.
I think it's a funny name, but I'm not sure.
Seymour Spider.
I mean, he looks pretty cool.
Seymour's such a fucking old man name too. I've never met anybody named Seymour. I just know Seymour from The Simpsons. Call asking, is there Seymour Butts here?
This guy looks pretty great. I actually kind of like this guy.
Seymour
Skinner. Huh?
Sleestack. This guy just looks creepy, dude.
Seymour's the principal in The Simpsons. And Seymour is also the name of Philip J. Fry's dog in Futurama. Seymour Butts, I think.
This guy looks like the character from the Land of the Lost. There's like the Land of the Lost movie. And there's like the alien, the evil alien in the movie. He looks like that because he has like it looks like his lips are almost sewed together, and that's like the same thing that's on the Land of the Lost.
He also has the same fucking name. They're called the Sleestack in Land of the Lost.
Oh, maybe this is from Land of the Lost.
Yeah, I think that could be just what that's from if it's not a reference to it. But yeah, the Sleestack that says like "Beware of Sleestack" in the.
Yeah, they made Land of the Lost.
Okay, there you go. So Land of the Lost is actually super dope.
You know what? Let's go look. Let's see if I can find like their filmography. We kind of skipped over that. They did Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, Mutt and Stuff. Oh, let's go back to that.
Oh,
Banana
Will and Holly
Splits,
are also.
Puff and Stuff, The Boogaloos, Lidsville, Sigmund Sea Monsters, Land of the Lost, Far Out Space Nuts, The Lost Saucer, Donnie and Marie, The Croft Super Show with Dr. Shrinker, Electra Woman, Captain Cruel, Wonderbug, Bigfoot, and Wild Boy. I haven't heard of any of this stuff.
Land of the
The
Lost
Croft
is the only
Superstar
one I saw.
Hour.
And I saw the
Lady
remake
Jeff.
with what's his name? Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell as
Yeah,
a genius.
I saw the remake, but that's a
Great.
remake of the thing from the 70s.
The remake I loved. I thought it was hilarious, but I also hadn't
did
seen
too.
the 70s one, so I didn't have any like expectation to be ruined.
I watched that with my dad over Thanksgiving, and it holds up. That's a funny movie. The cast is like
thought it was really funny,
pretty fantastic. Danny McBride's fucking hilarious in that. Jimmy, this guy's got a weird like bowl cut going on.
Yeah, who plays Chaka?
He does look really 70s. The guy who plays Chaka is Jorma.
It's from Lonely Island, right?
Yeah, it's Jorma Trackphone. I don't know how you say the last name, but Jorma is from.
Yeah. The cast is great.
He might have directed it too.
Did he? Either way, I did like that. I like that property quite a bit. So I'm a little bit back on board here now. I wouldn't mind having a Slee stack.
How do I go to
he also looks like he glows in neon lighting, if not in the dark. Or in black light.
No, it was not directed by him.
I
feel like Jorma directed something. Oh, he directed MacGruber.
Oh,
and he also directed Popstar.
Oh,
Jorma is like, awesome. If Jorma is directing something, it's probably gonna be fucking funny. I like him.
Yeah, I really like both of those movies.
And then there's also this.
Okay,
dude.
That's cool.
Freddy Funko. Oh, he's like as the green guy.
Oh, he's a Slee stack Funko. That's pretty cool too, actually.
This is pretty crazy that I recognize that character from Land of the Lost. Like,
yeah.
I feel like that was like a weird reference that I shouldn't.
Yeah, I would be way more surprised if you didn't then follow it up and say you saw it over Thanksgiving. It's like, okay, because I haven't seen Land of the Lost.
I probably wouldn't have known that if I didn't see it over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I wouldn't have seen it.
Because I didn't remember his name as Slee Stack. I was just like, those lips. Like, it's a very, like, I have never seen, because it looks like a lizard and an alien mixed. I was like, that's just weird looking. Like,
I also, Willow, I really like this one. The Freddy Funko Slee Stack. That's really cool. Like, of all the Freddy Funkos that have come out, like, this one is top of my list for, like, a cool-ass crossover.
This one is my least favorite. I don't know who Jimmy is. He looks like...
He's got a bowl cut.
He looks like, Tropic Thunder. Ben Stiller, like, plays that, like, mentally handicapped person.
Oh, Simple Jack. Yeah.
What is his name? Simple Jack?
Simple Jack, yeah.
He looks like Simple Jack.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that movie's great. That also holds up still.
See, there he is.
Yeah, Simple Jack.
Yeah, he's got the suspenders and the same haircut. Yeah. I wasn't that off.
No, that's Simple Jack.
Yeah, I think that's going to conclude our stream. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it out loud.
Yeah, I was like,
thanks for writing.
I like too. I was like, I wanted to say that. I was like, how do I say this without getting canceled on the internet?
Same.
I don't even know if mentally handicapped is okay to say. Is it like? Does anybody know the PC version of that now? Like, I feel like they change it every couple of years. Like, what you were calling people are like, actually, that was wrong.
Neurodivergent is one I've heard.
Is that what it is now? Neurodivergent?
But that isn't for like, I think that's like people with like Down syndromes and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's like when you're on the spectrum, not when you're mentally challenged.
I think mentally challenged is fine. It is a quote tune, but I just don't want to be like clipped with it out of context. So I'll just, pull it up on the screen.
It's much less offensive to just call them simple.
Yeah. You never go full simp.
All right. So I think that's going to conclude our stream. We're offline tomorrow. Then Thursday we have our intellectual disability. I just feel like even saying disabled became like not cool at one point, right? Like, aren't you supposed to say something?
When I was in college, I did like volunteer work with like the YMCA with like the Special Olympics for adults, and they referred to mentally challenged or mentally handicapped adults.
I'm saying I feel like that change, like every couple of years they change what they want to be called. Like, it's like a never ending. Maybe I'm just totally off, but
it was also a blast to do that stuff. Like you could just like you would just have your energy would just be mirrored. So like if I'd came in there like, yeah, way to go, they'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, and I'd be like, oh man, this is fun.
Differently abled, that sounds more like what they were saying. Like, because I feel like they changed it to something like that, whereas like disabled even was too like offensive. Developmentally, mentally delayed. Okay. I'm sure I won't remember that, and I'm just gonna say something offensive next time, but I'll try to remember.
It's good to know though. Okay, but yeah, thanks for joining us today, guys. That was super fun. I love getting into the tech stuff. Definitely, if you are interested in the tech shit, check out that CVI index. It's really cool.
Yeah, if you have any questions too, I'll put our Discord here. Max is always down to nerd out in his free time about this stuff. So if you have more questions,
it's true.
I miss the good old days where moron and imbecile were scientific terms. But yeah, we're going to be offline tomorrow. Thursday, we're moving our food fight from Friday to Thursday. Hopefully Paul can join us. That's what we're trying to move to Thursday. Paul's unavailable on Fridays. So Thursday, we'll be doing our cringe videos, our off the rails, and our food stuff. And then Friday, we will be doing our, there's no Super Blend this week, but that will be our community game day.
Yeah. Paul is tentatively agreeing to join, but we'll see. He says he thinks so. So Thursday, come Thursday.
Well, also, if not this week, we're going to try to make this more permanently. So hopefully Paul can schedule around it in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see you all on Thursday and then Friday for games, maybe Fall Guys or something. But thanks for watching. Hopefully NFT Gamer TV is streaming so I can raid into them. I do not think they are. Oh, no, they are. We'll raid into NFT Gamer TV. And yeah, we'll see you all on Thursday. Thanks for joining. It was fun. I still got to make an outro song. Let's play some random music. Peace out, everybody.
Got all my little neon sign toys over here.